Welcome back. Well, they call her the Queen of the Ocean. A great white shark, believed to be the largest in North America, has been spotted off the coast of Nova Scotia. Weighing more than 3,500 pounds, the great white was hauled out of the water in October, tagged, and then released. Now, this is all part of a research project that Todd Battis had the chance to join on an earlier mission in search of great whites in the Atlantic Ocean.
Shark right here. He's on it hard. He just ate it. Just ate it. Guy, you got belly. He's going off this way.
There is no job description for what Brett McBride does.
I'm not here to risk my life and have some kind of adrenaline rush. I'm just after whatever the scientists are asking of me.
No course that teaches it. No book that explains it.
Up, up, up.
Hook, coax, and corral the apex predators of the ocean. Great white sharks. Not for sport, not for money, for the love of a species.
I will name this shark after my mom. This beautiful girl will be Jane.
You're still breathing heavy. That's an exhausting exercise.
I think it's just because I've outgrown this suit. It's hard for me to breathe.
I think you're underselling it. That's tough work out there. Look, you're probably the only person in the world who willingly jumps into water with a great white.
That shark never really gets too close to me when it's coming forward toward me. So I'm usually not in a position that can get me hurt. You know, I'm not out there trying to be a daredevil. This isn't my super adrenaline rush kind of thing for me anymore. I've really done hundreds. I get a real gratification out of it, and I get a satisfaction of the job well done, and just a moment of, whew, you know, it didn't go wrong.
On a bright, crisp, late September morning, anchored off the coast of Nova Scotia's Cape Breton Island, a trawler, once used to hunt Alaskan crab, now has been outfitted to save a species. The white shark population here in the Northwest Atlantic has dropped nearly 80%, with humans still its greatest threat. Conservation has slowly brought them back, but more research and education is needed. Enter the Ocearch, privately funded vessel, the only one of its kind. Its sole mission? Study and share data on one of the ocean's most maligned, misunderstood, and mythical creatures, the great white shark. This is the shark that led Ocearch north. In 2017, it was tagged off the coast of South Carolina.
The largest mature male spot tagged with full health assessment workup in North Atlantic history, a 12.5-foot mature male, and we're going to name it Hilton. Hilton will help us make sense of all the female tracks and really help the science team prove where and when mating occurs.
Hilton's travels raised the curiosity of Ocearch founder Chris Fisher.
All right, Hilton, do your thing, big boy.
Why here? What delivered you to Atlantic Canada?
Well, you know, we always just chase the science, right? So we tagged a shark named Hilton a few years back that led us up here to Nova Scotia. Hilton really lived like in Mahone Bay for the better part of one summer, and then the following year he lived the better part of the summer, early fall, up here off Cape Breton, and it brought us to Nova Scotia. What we do is enable scientists to create and collect data by giving them safe access so you can use things like a spot tag.
Why are some sharks like Hilton not just cruising by, but hanging out around Nova Scotia? Is it just a good feeding spot? No one knows where these animals breed or give birth. Do those have any influence here?
The story of the shark hasn't been told nearly as detailed as it has now that you're on the picture.
These sharks are so stealthy, you can see how that they can be really hard to figure out for so long. It's a tough puzzle to figure out without the right kind of word.
Brett's work is getting that shark into the hands of the scientists.
That small boat tied up alongside of the ship, that's the contender. That's what they go fishing with. They go out, try to hook a great white, bring it back to the ship. A platform is lowered into the water. Shark swims on it. They lift it back onto the ship. That's where they begin to study it.
But like all fishing, it takes patience.
You know, You might have to fish 2 weeks, 12 hours a day, sitting in that little boat before you get one bite, and that takes a certain kind of patience, and that's probably the hardest thing about it.
All for this.
Oh, he's on it, Brett, he's on it.
He just ate it. Okay. Yeah. Going under the boat.
Come on, he's gotta come out.
We got 2 buoys on about a 13-foot shark.
Not bored anymore.
Back on the ship, that platform hits the water, becoming something of a stage. Buoys keep the massive animal close to the surface as they walk it back to the mothership, where an anxious crew awaits. Will it be female, male, young, or old? Will it come aboard willingly, or give Brett a fight? This is the moment. Brett jumps into action.
Go, DJ. Go, DJ. Hey, Brett, don't you? Push me off.
Holding the line that ends with a great white shark.
Is it a female? Yeah. Up.
Once lifted out of the water, the clock begins. They have 15 minutes before it needs to be returned to the ocean. That's just enough time to get a dozen samples. Any longer could compromise its health. The scene resembles a Formula One car pit stop. A hose pumps seawater into the shark through its gills so it can breathe. A dark towel over its eyes helps keep it calm, despite the manic scene around it.
She looks very placid, water flow's good.
Brett stays closest to the head, although that's not always the most dangerous end. Scientists and researchers have precious time and a very rare opportunity to get hands-on. Taking parasite samples, drawing blood, getting semen samples from males,
There we go.
and ultrasounding the females for babies.
When it's on its belly, you'll have more time. Girth is 6 feet 8.5 inches.
Lastly, attached like a one-of-a-kind earring, a tracker tag. The tracker lets anyone see where the shark travels. Each dot represents a spot where its dorsal fin has broken the surface of the ocean or passed a designated underwater marker. The tag then sends a signal to a satellite. This 14-foot globetrotter is named Lydia. At more than 4 meters long, she weighs as much as 2 cows.
Yeah, girl! Yeah, Lydia! Yeah!
After Ocearch tagged her off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida in 2013, Lydia traveled north to Newfoundland, then, very oddly, halfway across the Atlantic, the first white shark known to do that, before returning south. But why is still unclear. Most white sharks take a U-turn here off the coast of Nantucket, Massachusetts. Also a popular spot for many tourists. And one larger-than-life fishtail. The classic Jaws movie.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
We're trying to undo everything Jaws did, right? Jaws was like this fantasy story of a shark that doesn't behave like a white shark even behaves.
That's a 20-footer. 25.
That's Hollywood fiction.
Forward. Nice job.
But in real life, Ocearch shark wrangler Brett McBride has handled more than 300 sharks. He hasn't gotten a single scratch.
The risks of my job really have nothing to do with the sharks. It's really just life at sea on a boat. Sharks are not a threat. I mean, they have a very serious mouth, and I think that scares everybody. But look at the statistics. You know, it's like 6 or 7 deaths per year globally. You know, sharks just don't attack people often enough to even think about it. People can be around them, a lot of them, and have no idea.
It's something Chris and Brett explain to every community they visit. Outreach is part of every Ocearch expedition in hopes of opening eyes and hearts for fish like 5-meter-long, 3,500-pound Mary Lee, named after Chris's mom. She was one of those white sharks that did a U-turn here. In 2013, she was tagged in nearby Cape Cod. For the next 5 years, which is long as the tag batteries last, Mary Lee was tracked nearly 65,000 kilometers in waters off North Carolina and Florida. What's also amazing? The number of Twitter followers she had while doing that. More than 130,000 people watched her every move, creating new shark fans around the world.
Coming up, tracking sharks in unexpected waters.
All 6 of the sharks we tagged in Lunenburg last year are all back here now.
When W5 continues.
Every fall, the warm waters of Florida and Mexico draw great white sharks south. But a few started their migration from as far north as the coast of Nova Scotia. And a group called Ocearch is trying to find out why. Their work of bringing one of those ocean-bound animals onto the deck of a ship involves a big crew.
Okay, getting blood.
About 8 people interact with every shark.
Yep, I've got it right now.
But the information and samples from each fish supply data to 18 research studies.
We're culturing these bacteria from various different areas of the shark to look for antibiotic production.
These samples will be part of a bigger project, searching for new drugs to protect humans in hospitals.
We're running out of drugs that treat these antibiotic-resistant bacteria in hospitals and in clinical settings, and it's a big problem. So people are looking for new sources of antibiotics.
New sources from an ancient species. The earliest great whites are thought to have lived 11 million years ago, giving them plenty of time to develop protection against disease.
It's kind of an interesting avenue for drug discovery.
All types of samples have now been collected on this ship from more than 300 sharks around the world. But not everyone is on board with their methods. The main criticism is if this is stressing the sharks.
Whoa! Holy crap!
On the U.S. East Coast, another shark researcher is out on a limb, tagging his own way.
Got it!
This one has some of
Dr. Greg Scomo of the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries has been studying white sharks for more than 30 years.
You know, I'm very much interested in how this animal lives in the western North Atlantic. So we're examining the movement ecology as it relates to its reproductive biology, how it feeds, what it feeds on, and its growth, longevity. If a popular swimming beach is also a great feeding area for white sharks, we want to know that.
Contender, Ocearch, pick me up, Chris.
Greg has seen the Ocearch method of tagging up close, spending time on their ship a few years ago.
Several years ago, they assisted us in our tagging of white sharks in the western North Atlantic. We decided to use a different approach. As opposed to handling the sharks excessively, we felt that a less invasive technique was more appropriate. Our goal is to minimize the amount of stress possible.
For that, Greg has developed his own technique.
So our approach is to use a spotter plane to locate the animal. We actually go to the animals. We don't attract them with any kind of chum, and then we tag them while they're free swimming. So we try not to in any way alter their behavior.
Ocearch says they can tell the level of stress these sharks go through with a key test.
One of my things I'm most interested in is the blood work. So when I get off the boat, I'll go into the lab and ask them what the levels were. You know, did it have a lot of oxygen in its blood? Did it show a lot of stress? Because that's kind of my report card on how well I handled the shark out there. Did I fight it too long? Did I let it get wrapped up and have to unwrap it? Did I give it enough seawater over his gills? All those things are, you know, what I used to learn.
Another concern is if experience in human hands alters sharks' normal migratory patterns. This is the second Canadian trip for this ship. Last year, the Ocearch team tagged 6 sharks off the coast of Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. All 6 returned, including Jane, a young shark at about 3 meters in length. More than 3.5-meter long Jefferson, and Luna, one of the biggest white sharks they've ever tagged in the North Atlantic, at a massive 4.5 meters long.
all 6 of the sharks we tagged in Lunenburg last year are all back here now, and they skipped Massachusetts, which is interesting, showing maybe that there's a little crossover, but there's these separate. There's that kind of Massachusetts white shark, and then there's the Atlantic Canada white shark.
The Atlantic Canadian white shark clearly would be the friendlier of the bunch, though, right?
No question about that. No question about that.
All joking aside, of the 4 sharks Ocearch tagged previously in Cape Cod, 2 stayed away for about a year, and 1 never returned. So the past several years, Massachusetts Marine Fisheries denied Ocearch a permit, citing safety concerns. Protection of public safety is the paramount consideration, especially in proximity to popular beach areas where people are using them to swim, wade, and surf. In Nova Scotia, Walter Flower knows areas like those very well.
I run a tour boat, whale watching and bird watching and sightseeing trips in Lunenburg. I have a little surf shop here to supply the local surf guys and gals with equipment. More. All right. Going right up.
The sharks Ocearch tagged last year were very close to popular South Shore surfing spots.
We've got a couple of surf breaks where we've been surfing for years. Within, well, one's a couple hundred yards from there. They've got a bunch of adult sharks. The white sharks being identified as being here for the last couple of years, it's opened a lot of eyes up, you know, got everybody thinking pretty it's spooky.
Shark expert Aaron McNeil is a Canadian research chair at Dalhousie University, and it troubles him to see sharks lured so close to beaches and people who use them.
My concerns were raised when surfers on the South Shore had told me that they had been called off of a place they were surfing by the tender from Ocearch because they were fishing pretty hard for white sharks in that area. And that's where my hackles get up a bit.
There weren't official restrictions on the group at the time, but there were local worries about Ocearch using bait or chumming. Dumping fish pieces and blood, emitting a scent great white sharks can pick up as far as 5 kilometers away.
I know there's some concern last summer. They were chumming quite close, or what some would consider quite close inshore. Where do you stand on that?
The issue that I have had and continue to have really with what Ocearch has to do with catching white sharks close to where people are recreating. Shark fishing is a distinct kind of fishing. It often uses chum, but it doesn't have to use chum. It can be baited lines in the water, it can be long lines, there are various methods, but you're targeting a big animal here. And to do that in proximity to people is just not kosher scientifically.
Some restrictions have been put on.
They have been, yeah. Yeah, I think DFO has done a pretty good job responding to the concerns.
The Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans stepped in this year, ordering Ocearch no chumming or deploying seal-shaped decoys within 3 nautical miles of land. DFO also sent some of their regulators out to the ship. After repeated interview requests from W5, the department didn't allow anyone to comment on those visits. But we were told the checks were part of the licensing, allowing the American ship to do their sampling work in Canadian waters. Despite some controversy, there is one thing everyone can agree on. The awareness Ocearch brings to great white sharks is a step forward.
I think the surprising thing about what Ocearch has done is capturing sharks inshore. We've known for a long time there have been white sharks in our waters, but I think certainly they've opened an eye for people about how close they come inshore.
Probably a revelation for Atlantic Canadians.
It is, and I think that's, you know, to Ocearch's credit, that's what they do best, which is to raise awareness about the presence of white sharks in the environment.
But near the end of Ocearch's Canadian great white shark fishing expedition, they hooked something that surprised even them.
Well, this is just like a shocking development that is totally opening up the whole Canadian Atlantic white shark puzzle.
A small white shark, likely an adolescent.
We never dreamed we'd catch a 7-foot white shark here. I mean, we've been seeing 14-foot sharks, 15-foot sharks, but to see a little one is just super exciting because it means there is a whole white shark Atlantic Canada puzzle.
A puzzle with more questions than answers. Could it be a breeding ground, a birthing area, or just a feeding pit stop?
It probably tells you need to come back next summer.
Shocking and really pleasantly surprising.
And much more research is needed.
They're just in the process now of tagging this 7.5-footer. This has been an extremely successful trip for Ocearch. not just in the number of great whites they've been able to tag here in the North Atlantic, but also in the variety of sharks that they've seen here.
The expedition tagged 11 sharks in 3 weeks, the most successful North Atlantic trip so far. From larger, older sharks, now to this young one, named Caper, after the people of Cape Breton Island.
So what do you tell people who are going to see this story, read, what you've done here in Atlantic Canada, who may think, oh my God, they're out there in the waters near, I swam right there.
Immediately get rid of your dog. Only like 6 people a year die from sharks, 6 to 8, and like 250 people a year die from dogs. Don't walk across the street or ride a bike. It's interesting how people don't look at the ocean the same way they look at the forest. They know they're going into the wild, and you might bump into a bear or a moose or a mountain lion. When you go into the ocean, like immediately after you're beyond 2 feet deep, you're deep into the wilderness. Anything can happen.
For Brett, anything usually does. But it's not himself he's worried about. It's sharks like Ironbound, caught off Nova Scotia's West Ironbound Island.
Until that shark swims off the lift, I'm just a ball of nerves. It's a big monkey on my back. I want to be able to see that shark swim off healthy, and then I can sleep that night.
Though the idea of massive sharks like 2,000-pound, 900-kilogram Unumaki maneuvering through maritime waters might give others sleepless nights too, perhaps the only thing scarier than a sea full of top predators is one without any at all. There is much to learn of where they breed, feed, and live. When it comes to these sharks, there really is no doubt. Canada is the Great White North.
Now, as Todd mentioned, Ocearch has a dedicated website where you can actually follow the migratory patterns of the great whites online. We have a link on our website, w5.ctvnews.ca.